Welcome to the entertaining Talkin' Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video as Joe Judge and Dave Gettleman continue the coaching search for the New York Giants. And today, they brought in Dave Deguglielmo. I hope I pronounced that right. People call him Goog for short. He's a very accomplished offensive line coach throughout his career. However, he's been through 4 teams over the last 5 years since being an offensive line coach. I'm going to go over his complete resume. I'm going to go over reasons as to why teams moved on from him. But, from a lot of things I read, he's very old school, he's hard-nosed, and he gets the most out of his players in most circumstances. There is one case, and probably the real reason why he got fired by the Colts, where he went way overboard. Just a year ago, and I'm going to, get into the quotes there, but he did a fantastic job with the Colts. I'm going to speak on that. I'm going to go over his complete resume. Of course, a lot of New York Giants fans wanted Bill Callahan. Bill Callahan, very accomplished, and we still may get him. He has not signed on him with anybody, but the rumors I'm hearing seems as if he may go with the Carolina Panthers and Matt Rule. That's not confirmed yet. Obviously, they probably are going to be willing to give him a lot more money based on what we saw with Matt Rule and what we've seen with some of the other coaches they've brought in. Seems as if they got an unlimited bank account to bring in coaches to try to fix that team. And Callahan's a very accomplished offensive line coach. Did a great job with the New York Jets while he was there. Did a great job with the Dallas Cowboys. And, we saw with Eric Flowers this year. Eric Flowers did nothing with us under Hal Hunter. Was a horrible offensive lineman. I always thought they should have moved him to the guard. That's what Callahan and the Redskins did this year, and by all accounts, he played much better. So Callahan would have been a nice guy to bring in here. Very established offensive line coach. Even had some success as a head coach with the Raiders. Brought him to a Super Bowl before losing to John Gruden, and maybe we still will bring him in. But it seems as if it's much more likely that we bring in a guy like Coach Deguglielmo. And I'm going to get into his resume in a second. But yeah, from everything I read, this could be a guy that would be a great hire by the New York Giants, and it's certainly an area of need that needs to be coached properly as the New York Giants continue to revamp their coaching staff. There's a few other spots as well that they'll need to fill in, and I'm sure Coach Judge will continue the coaching search. But let's jump into Coach Goog's resume and what he has to bring to the table for the New York Giants. The first thing I wanted to pull up for you guys was the tweet that came out from Dan Graziano, obviously reports on the New York Giants from ESPN. There were a number of other people that reported on this as well. But what Graziano had to say, source says the Giants will interview Dave Deguglielmo for the offensive line coach job. Was on the Patriots staff with Joe Judge from 2014 to 2015. And that is where, obviously, Joe Judge and him link up. You look at all the hires that Joe Judge has brought in, they're all guys that he's coached with, whether it was with Alabama, whether it was with New England, whether it was early on in his career as a collegiate coach. So, interesting stuff there. So, there you go. There's the link to Joe Judge. And you look at all the guys Joe Judge has brought in, they're guys he's coached with before. So, I'm sure, yet again, this is an instance where, he saw a guy as he was moving up the coaching ranks that he'd want to bring on potentially to his staff. The interesting thing is Flores brought him in last year. So it seems as if Judge and Flores have very similar tastes. Now, why he moved on from him, I'm not 100% sure on that. I can't really judge Miami's performance on any level last year. They had no talent on that football team. But let's jump into some more quotes here. This is just further talking about Deguglielmo. He says, Dave Deguglielmo, 51 years old, who has worked for 4 teams in the past 5 years, will interview with the Giants per ESPN. Deguglielmo's coaching ability is well respected, and he owns 2 Super Bowl rings, one with the Giants and one with the Patriots. That's right, he formerly coached with the New York Giants as well. He was most recently the Dolphins' 2019 offensive line coach, bumped up from a consultant's role to replace the fired Pat Flaherty. And from what I read, he replaced Pat Flaherty almost right away. I think they heard that he was available, and they brought him on right away. Flaherty was, I think, in July, like it says, so he didn't even make it to training camp. Deguglielmo and head coach Brian Flores then reportedly parted ways mutually at season's end. So it seems as if Miami just got rid of their whole coaching staff under Flores. And I guess he wants to bring in all new guys, even though I think that they outkicked the coverage last year in terms of performance. And here is Deguglielmo's coaching history. One really interesting thing of note, got his start with Boston College under, you guessed it, Tom Coughlin. Tom Coughlin, of course, the New York Giants head coach when they won their last 2 Super Bowls. He started as a head coach with Boston College. And that is where he met Coach Goog. And he coached there as a graduate assistant for 2 years, then became the assistant head coach and offensive line coach for 4 years from 93 to 96, before moving on to be the O-line coach for UConn for 2 years, South Carolina for 4, again as an O-line coach. Then he got his first pro job with, you guessed it, the New York Giants under Tom Coughlin, the same coach he coached under at Boston College. 2004, of course, was Eli Manning's first year. It was Tom Coughlin's first year. And the first thing Tom Coughlin did was say, I need to get Goog on my staff. And that's exactly what he did. Coach Guglielmo came on as an assistant offensive line coach and quality control coach from 2004 to 2008. And under Guglielmo, that offensive line got a lot better. Of course, he was an assistant, but he was, of course, involved. In 04, they didn't have that good of an O-line, but over, the progression, by 08, the offensive line was fantastic. Best offensive line probably in the sport, and he had young players like Snee and Deal and everybody else, and he did a great job there, which is why he became an offensive line coach with the Miami Dolphins from 2009 to 2011, so that's a promotion there. He was an assistant O-line coach with the New York Giants, then became the O-line coach with the Jets for 1 year in 2012, before moving on to the New England Patriots from 14 to 15 for 2 years. I took a year off. I believe he actually did some sports radio from what I read. The reason, from what I read, that the Patriots moved on from him, a lot of it was attributed to injuries to the offensive line, but in the playoff game in 2015, Tom Brady got hit 23 times. He was only hit 38 times throughout the entire regular season, and the Patriots decided to move on from Dave Deguglielmo. A lot of people pointed to injuries on the offensive line as part of the reason, but nevertheless, they moved on. He then went to the Chargers the following year as an assistant offensive line coach in 2016, before becoming the offensive line coach with the Dolphins in 17, then moving to the Colts in 2018. It is with the Colts where he really stood out. The Colts in 2017, if you remember correctly, the reason that Andrew Luck was always hurt was because the offensive line performed as poorly as it did. Well, in 2018, Coach Frank Reich, and it made a point of emphasis to bring on a coach that could really improve that offensive line. He brought on Coach Goog, and Guglielmo did a fantastic job. The year before, they ranked the worst offensive line in football. In 2018, they ranked near the top of the league. Now, of course, like I said, they drafted Nelson. They put more of an emphasis on it, but Guglielmo was widely credited for it, which is why it was such a shock when he was fired. Now, I read a couple of things as to why he was fired. He was initially brought on with McDaniels in 2018, and he was the only coach that was not fired by Coach Frank Reich. Of course, McDaniels initially got the job, and he was appointed to be a part. He was not a Frank Reich guy. So Frank Reich, at the end of the year, decided to move on from him because they had conflicting ideas. But there was another reason that I read into that I think is the main reason that I'll get into in just a second. Then became the offensive line coach this year with Miami, and now is interviewing with the New York Giants. So he's certainly a guy that has been around the league. And this is the next thing I want to pull up. This is talking about, just reiterating why he was fired by the Indianapolis Colts after doing such a fantastic job. It's a surprising move considering the strides Indy's offensive line made in the first year under the new coaching staff. However, there is context behind the move. Deguglielmo was the only offensive coach hired before Josh McDaniels turned his back on the Colts. Reich wants to bring in his own guy, per Garofalo. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero added there were rumblings of a possible change over the past month as Reich and Deguglielmo weren't on the same page despite the success. The Colts ranked number 2 in the NFL in pass blocking and number 4 in run blocking in 2018 per Football Outsiders metrics. And like I said, in 2017, they were either at the bottom or damn near close to the bottom of the league in both of those categories. And then this is the next thing I wanted to pull up. This is the reason why a lot of people speculate as to why he lost his job with the Colts. He reacted over the top. When you read these quotes, to offensive lineman Denzel Good, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He was a backup offensive lineman, I think, with the Colts, and he had a legitimate reason as to why he didn't play that particular week, and Deguglielmo did not respond appropriately. But here's the quotes. I came back after my brother was murdered, and I was dealing with a lot of personal issues, Good told The Athletic. That didn't sit well with Deguglielmo. He wanted players that fight through things and play. And then this was more further talking about that topic. He told me that as long as I was there, I would never play for him again. Now, this could be he said, she said. This isn't like it was, taped and, they have the audio footage, but this is what he's saying. I would never play another down because he felt disrespected. I wasn't going to play even though I felt I was as good as anyone on the field playing. So that's what he had to say about Coach Dave Deguglielmo, and I think that's the real reason. If I had to guess why the Colts moved on, it's possible that Wright didn't, he didn't pick him. So he wanted to get his own guy, but that did come out, and that was a big storyline there with the Indianapolis Colts, and may have been the real reason why Dave Deguglielmo was released. But nevertheless, he is known as a hard-nosed guy. He's an old-school guy, and by many things that I've read, is the type of guy that does get the most out of his offensive linemen. And you point to what he did with the Colts, that is very impressive stuff, and you hope he could do the same thing with the New York Giants. We certainly have some guys with talent, a Zeitler, Hernandez, and I think we're going to invest more into that. But at the end of the day, a coach is only as good as the talent on his team. Yeah, maybe you get the most out of them, but you need talent to succeed, and I think the Giants will pay heavy focus on that in free agency and the draft, and we'll see what they decide to do at the tackle positions and the center. But, we'll see how Coach Goog does in the interview, and we'll see if the New York Giants hire him shortly. I think it's very possible. But as always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.